normality in terms of traveling is nice. But flying again has been very disappointing because now all the rules that we were very confident from country to country, now we are not confident about that. When you go to the counter and you are going to do the check-in, you have to ask, okay, shall I show you my COVID passport, my vaccination? No, maybe in destination. Yes, sir. Do you need something from me? Do I need some face mask? No, maybe in destination or in the plane. You will see in the boarding gate. Then finally, the rules are very strange. If you moved from Spain to Sweden, like I did, it's okay, you don't need anything, just the COVID passport in destination. If you go the other way around, you need to fill a complex form, get a QR code, and the police in Spain will check. Then it's okay to have the rules, but we are 29 countries in the European Union. We are not able to agree on basic rules for flying. Then,
so it's different for every country, and it changes over time all the time?
Yes, it's even really difficult to check in the website, okay, what is the rule that is applying now? Then this is for me very annoying. It's rules that they are changing and they lack sense, because if it's face mask or whatever, it's okay, but makes sense to keep a safety distance in a queue, and then you are seated side by side with a person. And why you kept the distance in the queue? Then it's, of course, the rules. We have to follow the rules. Yeah. We have to fulfill the rules. But we have also to see if the rules make sense or not, right?
Yeah, and I guess you have rules that you have to have face masks, but then if you have to eat or drink, then it's okay to still take it off. And,
they say, okay, face mask is mandatory, but when you take a bottle of water, when you order some meal, you can remove the face mask. What does it mean? That, okay, in a flight of 1 hour from Luleå to Stockholm, you can be 45 minutes without mask. Then what is the point? There's no point. This is something that but however, they don't explain that they are having HEPA filters and other technologies that they are helping much more than the face mask. Right. We have technologies to clean the air, and I think the planes are places that the air is extremely clean. The air is renovated in every minute or every second minute, and with HEPA filters that they can keep. Then they should explain that. Okay, we have some rules, but also the technology is helping for that, right?
If we start moving to like, or comparing to AI, AI can be built by manually defining a set of rules, or you can try to do a machine learning approach that actually try to automate, learning the rules from data instead. It seems like in this case, it's very much a manual approach in EU, where every country is manually defining a set of rules, and they are not consistent with each other.
Not consistent,
country.
Not coordinated.
And they change all the time, and they're not even logical in some sense, right?
I think the scientific approach here is trial and error. This is not and when you are a scientist and you try to do something with trial and error, believe me, that is not a good approach, because it's just try, and if it doesn't work, try a different thing. It's successive approaches is not approximations is not good.
But you've been traveling, because I haven't really been traveling outside Sweden for a long time, but since you have your background, you've been actually doing quite some traveling through the pandemic, I assume.
Yeah, I did, and but the situation for traveling was not very, very nice during that time, because actually in the very, very beginning, before the vaccines were in place, the people got confused. You didn't know what to do. Actually, the figures by some countries, that is, if you travel to Asia or some places, the figures are not real. You have to check if the figures are real. And also the uncertainty that, okay, if I get sick in some remote country and I have to land in the hospital there, what may happen with me? Because this is kind of things in the very beginning were happening. The news were so bad that, okay, what happens if I get sick in India and I land in a hospital and now, thanks God, I think this is sorted out with the vaccines. We have some confidence on the trips, but certainly during the pandemic was really, really tough to do travel.
So bottom line, during the pandemic, there was very little coordination. And now with the vaccines era, it's a little bit better. Would you say it has improved?
Yes, I think it's before the pandemic, the chaos was total. I think the chaos was crazy. But within the European Union, we did very, very bad the pre-vaccine era because we were not sure. And for me, the European Union was very passive in taking over the situation, right? The countries, they did their best, but they were not coordinated.
So it was not a demonstrated leadership from the EU?
Definitely not. For me, definitely not. However, at least the EU took over the leadership for the vaccine, to purchase the vaccine and the distribution of the vaccines. And I think more or less we have 70-80% of the European population in some countries vaccinated. And I think this is quite an achievement. Yeah. But for me, it's quite an achievement. It's a late achievement.
Yeah, but it's interesting because if we talk now about why we want EU, what's the purpose of EU really? And one of the key things is to have coordination. One of the key things is to have leadership when it's needed. And the interesting thing is that we can talk about EU as good or bad, but here you can really see the benefits when they take the leadership. And when they don't take the leadership, it's like, well, then I don't want to pay for that.
Yeah, this is actually, you are absolutely right. When the EU takes the leadership, the results are very, very evident. And we can say that, okay, it's worth to have the EU. Yeah. But when we don't have this kind of leadership, we are a bunch of countries not coordinated, and we are going back to the times of the mid of the 20th century. Then this is something that we shouldn't repeat. But I really hope that the EU has learned also from the pre-vaccine time what is the impact of this lack of coordination.
And what is the problem with it? Why don't we have coordination? Is it too big? Is it too difficult? Is it the mandates? What is your personal view?
During the pandemic, and I'm talking about this AI topic that we are talking here. The dilemma was, shall we listen to the politicians or to the technicians? And this is something that the dilemma has been on the table all the time. Shall we take decisions by politicians or by technicians? Shall we protect the economy or the health? And these dilemmas have been on the table all the time. And the governments, they were not clear to decide, okay, health first or economy first. For example, this political criteria or technical criteria. And they have been playing around, was not clear. They have been changing because, of course, the situation was also very dynamic. And I think at the end of the day, the science, thanks to the science, we have the vaccines, and has been a coordinated effort globally that we cannot neglect, that the vaccine production and research has been a very coordinated effort by many countries. And thanks God, the vaccine has saved the European Union and the rest of the world. And this is a coordinated effort. But the science has been saving the situation, not the politicians.
Yeah. Without going too deep into this, but you as an expert in Spain and been a lot in Sweden as well recently, what do you think about the Spain versus Sweden's approach to vaccine and corona in general?
In general, I think Sweden and Spain has two good things in terms of corona, is that the people want to get the vaccine. It's a people trust, and we don't have any kind of problem. If you want to vaccinate even teenagers or even kids, people don't hesitate to do that. Problem is the type of economy and the type of society. In terms of society, the Spanish society is more, let's say, more social society, more touristical society. Then the impact of corona in the beginning was higher because Spain is a country that has one economy based on tourism, and this is obvious. And of course, the impact was much. And in terms of contacts, the contacts are closer in Spain. And in Sweden, I think the social distance is by default more. It's a cultural aspect. In this regard, I think it's okay. But for me, I can say that both countries, the healthcare systems have worked quite well, but we have a common problem as well. We have not been able to take care of our seniors. And this is something that is our society should look back and check what has been wrong, because at the end of the day, the people who has paid a high price in this pandemic
is the seniors.
Are the seniors that have built up this society, and we have not been able to take care of them. Then I think this is something that we have to shout out.
But this truth is for both.
But it is global. I think it's global. We have not been able to identify the most vulnerable people and protect them in the right way, because in the beginning the confusion was so high that we were not able to do that. Then, but yes, I think it's in the future is vulnerability. Now, for example, people we are talking about the third dose for the vulnerable people for the vaccine. Now we have learned something. Okay, the people with higher vulnerability needs to be more protected. And that's why we are talking about the third vaccine now. Then I think it's tough, because Europe is always learning with blood, because First World War, Second World War, and then. But at the end of the day, we learn, right?
Yeah. Well, I would like to say with that, for one, welcome here very much, Diego Galar. We're very proud to have you here.
Thank you very much.
A very distinguished professor, that you've been in many universities, both in Spain, US, and now in Sweden as well. And you have hundreds of, over 200 distinguished publications in journals and conferences, and you've been part of X number of editorial boards and scientific committees, and so many different international journals and conferences, and working with so many European research. I should stop, otherwise I can just speak forever about all your
you will
amazing
explode Diego's head. You will explode his head soon.
But, one thing that I think is extra interesting is that, I'm an AI nerd, and we are both. And I think one aspect is that, AI is moving into every kind of field you can think of. And AI is becoming more of a natural component in every scientific field, in industrial sector that we can think of. And I think from that aspect, it's really interesting with your background to see, that you also have very much, experience in, how you use data and AI in your field. And that's why I'm very much looking forward to having this kind of in-depth discussion with you. So very welcome here.
Thank you very much, Anders.
And if you were to start, how would you describe your background? If you were to try to give, a quick introduction to people that don't know you, how would you describe yourself?
My God, this is a really, really difficult question. It's because my background, my original background, I'm telecom engineer. And my specialization is satellite communications.
This is very relevant right now.
But after that, I have been in the university for very long. I did my PhD in industrial engineering, and I came into the predictive maintenance. Then it's some kind of telecom, industrial engineering, and finally, after many years of working for the industry, jumping into the data science, data analytics, AI. Yeah. As you said, the AI is everywhere, and of course, in the industry is there. Then for my profile, I would say that is some kind of a changing profile that has been adapting to the evolution of the technology. But many people say that okay, you are a generic guy that is serious, but I have a strange profile because it's some kind of miscellanea. It's the telecom engineer, but working maybe with machines like robots or whatever. That it's strange, but for me, everything related to the industry, to the health of the machines, to the technology, supportive technologies to increase the performance of the machines and produce much more better and with lesser impact. Yeah. This has created a very, very strange profile. And also my profile, let me say that it's strange because I have been always in the borderline between the academia and the industry. Mm-hmm. It's my life between Sweden and Spain as a full professor in Luleå University is very academic with a professor of condition monitoring, but at the same time in Spain, in Tecnalia, where I'm heading the group that is very close to the industry. Then I think maybe I'm not a pure academician, I'm not a pure industrial guy, but sometimes we need people moving in this gray area to connect both worlds, right?
Yeah.
And before we can move into Tecnalia and the Luleå University of Technology and what you're working with there, but should we perhaps, if we were to start with your PhD, how would you describe, what were your main contributions and work in your PhD?
It's a very interesting question because, I'm not PhD in telecom engineering. I'm PhD in industrial engineering. And what I wanted to check is, with my PhD was the relevance of actually analytics in terms of maintenance. I was working many years ago in terms of analytics to increase the maintenance performance. And by that time, all the maintenance, I'm talking quite many years ago, the maintenance was performed with the Excel sheets, with having really nice files with papers, etc., like a room, many bookshelves with the files, and a lot of data, no information.
No insight.
Then when you were asking to the maintenance managers, people in relevant companies like General Motors, etc., why you are keeping maybe in the basement so these files? Maybe in the future we will use this data for something. There was some kind of a data warehouse just in case. And then I thought, we need to take advantage of this past. There must be some advantage looking back in the mirror of the maintenance to decide in the future. Right. And then I started working, and finally this ended up in a PhD thesis. And but by that time, believe me, when I was talking about automatic maintenance decisions, people thought, you are crazy. You will need people to take the maintenance decisions. But nowadays, the crazy people are the ones that want to take by themselves the decisions.
You were a bit ahead of your time, perhaps, at that point.
No, I think people recording files and keeping the data. I think in their mindset, they had the hope that this will be useful sometime. Then at the end of the day, I think everybody agreed that let's keep data because sooner or later we will need this data, the past, to predict the future.
Yeah, and I hope you can continue doing that given all the legal GDPR kind of related issues. But
hopefully with machines, it should be better than with private data, right?
Yeah, we would hope so. And perhaps in maintenance, it's not that much personal information that is stored either. So
but it's still quite sensitive information because you are keeping information of failures. Records of failures of some components, some brands that you cannot make public. If you have records of failures of a component of SKF or ABB or Siemens or whatever, this data is highly confidential. You cannot publish information of some vendors because then you may be in
breach your contract.
This is actually because all aspects of the lifespan expected for the components is highly restricted. You cannot say publicly, these components from this brand are lasting 1 year, 2 months, or whatever. This is something that is not even the forensic engineering that is very, very common, that when you have a failure and you analyze the root cause and you see, the machine has failed due to this, these reports usually are extremely confidential because they compromise information about big companies, big suppliers, and they are very sensitive with that.
So this is other areas than GDPR, but equally sensitive.
Yeah, I mean so many people, and also, where I work recently, I mean, so many people are saying it's so sensitive and it's so secretive, but it is that for so many different reasons. It can be for personal information reasons, but also from a competitor point of view, as you point out, right?
Absolutely.
And I remember that from the Spotify days as well. I mean, it's super sensitive to share anything that has with absolute numbers in some sense to do, because if that gets out, it can be really sensitive from a competitive kind of point of view, right?
Yeah, actually, now if you go to the vendors that you can find all over the world, it's any component. Some of them, for example, they provide information in the data sheet about the remaining useful life. Okay, this component, this bearing or this whatever is going to last for 10,000 hours. And they provide this information, but many of them, they don't. And make this information public is highly confidential because, the decisions for replacement are based on this information. Then it's a really sensitive matter. Indeed, the big brands, they usually, when you supply these kind of things, you have this kind of non-disclosure agreement that, okay, you cannot publish, for example, any kind of vibration, temperature data of my components. Nothing. This is totally restricted.
Yeah. So in short, if you were to just summarize in like a single sentence or something, what was the main topic of your PhD thesis?
The main topic of my thesis was maintenance performance improvement. That is okay. Okay, good. The main goal of the thesis was to improve the maintenance performance. We were doing maintenance, but maybe not in the optimized way, and I try to increase the maintenance performance. Actually, it's the concept of maintenance performance. I think I started talking this topic many years ago. One of the first person that started talking about the concept of maintenance performance, because the maintenance usually is performed by people, or at least used to be performed by the workforce, that is the maintenance crew, etc. Yeah. Then the maintenance performance is very linked with the performance of those people. And talking about the performance is always very tricky. Sensitive aspect. You cannot talk about your maintenance performance. Okay, this maintenance crew is performing better than this, that. But now, as a process, maintenance as a process, we can talk about the maintenance performance, how the maintenance is impacting the whole business.
Can you just give some concrete examples of what kind of products are we speaking about here that we are trying to improve the performance of the maintenance?
Yeah, it's actually when we talk about maintenance performance, I'm talking about the overall maintenance that you have in on site. You may have a maintenance crew of 8-10 people, wherever
in a manufacturing plant,
in a manufacturing plant, or in a railway premises or wherever. It's with these people you get some availability for your assets. For example, 95%, 97%, wherever. Increasing the maintenance performance means that, okay, with the same people, with the same materials, I'm going to increase from 95 to 98% availability. Means that, okay, you are able to run your machines, to drive your trains longer with the same economic investment.
Investment, yeah.
And this is very important, because we cannot neglect that now in Europe and in the Western world, we need to increase the availability of our assets. We have to run 24/7. It's every time you shut down your assets for maintenance, you are losing money. Then the more you can run your assets, the better for your business.
And if you go all the way to sustainability topic, how we actually survive with less impact on our world, how we do maintenance, how we get more flexibility out of our power plants, how we can make that is a big part of meeting our CO2 goals and meeting our sustainability goals.
Yeah, actually, it's nice you link with sustainability, because maintenance and we will talk AI and sustainability, but maintenance and sustainability are really linked. Actually the maintenance is directly related to sustainability, in terms that assets that are well maintained, they are more sustainable, they are eco-friendly, the emissions are better. However, assets that are not maintained well, and you can go to developing countries and you can see that assets that are not well maintained, they are impacting the environment, they are impacting many things. Then maintenance is really contributing to the sustainability. This is extremely relevant. And of course, maintenance in terms of let's say eco-friendly process in the industry is going to be considered in the future more like a adding value rather than a cost, because can reduce the impact of the emissions and increase the sustainability a lot.
I think we will move into the whole sustainability and circular economy topic very shortly. But just to cover your background a bit, and you did your PhD and you continued then for a number of different positions, both a professor in Spain and US, etc. I don't think we can cover everything because then we will just speak of your background in the rest of the podcast. But I'd like to speak, for one, about the Tecnalia work that you're doing. You're the head of maintenance and reliability there, and also about the Luleå University of Technology. But is there something before we move into that you'd like to highlight? Something that you've done in the past that took
you there. That is a lot. We need to know that step.
I think it's I have been moving a lot. This is true, and I have been moving from teaching, doing research. I have been in the industry. I must say that I think let me say that my father influenced me a lot in terms of moving around, because he was a maintenance manager for many years, and he helped me to touch the ground. To be realistic, not just in the cloud without any contact with the reality. And I must say that for me was important to move to different places, especially when before going to Tecnalia and coming to Luleå in the European University of Madrid. I had the chance to start developing all these concepts. I started working with a powerful team there, and I think from Madrid I can say that was for me my takeoff to the situation that I'm working now with this kind of industrial analytics, industrial AI profile that I have configured. This is maybe the very beginning of
that part of the journey.
Yes,
that was Madrid.
Yes.
And what was your position in Madrid?
In Madrid, I was in the industrial engineering department. I had the chance to work in many projects, coordinate many theses there, and I had the first contacts with the big Spanish industry. At the end of the day, I'm born in Zaragoza. That is a nice city, but not big one. Then Madrid, the capital, is where all the big companies, they have the headquarters, and that university had the chance to start collaborating with the big sharks, let's say, right? And then this university belongs to the Laureate universities. That is a big group all over the world. I had the chance to travel a lot and see different realities, industrial environments, and then for me, open up my mind, and I think I have to thank that time there.
Yeah, interesting. And now, if we were to move, before we go to Luleå University of Technology and speak a bit more about Tecnalia, can you just start by giving a bit description for people that know what that company is? What do they do? And
Tecnalia is a research institute, same as you can find in Germany with Fraunhofer, or in Finland with BTT, or in Norway with Sintef, and here in Sweden we have RISE. The reason for this kind of institutes like Tecnalia is, and I think it's good. It's something that doesn't exist in many places. But when we talk about research, the universities usually in a scale of technical readiness level, the TRL, that is how mature is the product. The universities usually move between 1 and 3. It's a maximum 4, but very seldom they reach to 4. Then the industry doesn't want to listen anything below 7 or 8. Then you have this gap that you have to bridge. You need someone to take the technology and the science and take it up from TRL 3 to TRL 7 or 8.
And the top one is 10, right?
Top one, 10 is
10 is full general availability.
Yeah, it's a product that you can commercialize. This is we start from the concept, the proof of concept, the demonstrator in a lab, demonstrator in real industrial settings, up to the 10 that is okay when you can come and sell the product.
So TRL. What is that?
Technical readiness level.
And technical readiness level is a KPI used for the academia, into the research institutes, into the industrial.
Yeah, it's very used in the European Union and also in US to define in which level of maturity you are doing your research. If you are doing your research in a very, doesn't mean that if you are working in a TRL2, you are bad. No, it's the other way around. TRL2 is, for example, the basic science, physics, chemistry.
But we're talking about horizons.
Yeah.
Horizons to commercial availability.
Yes. It's from TRL3 to 7 or 8, you may have 5-6 years. From TRL2 to 10, you may have 10-15 years, right? But of course, the basic science, they are in the low TRLs, and the industrialization of the product is high TRL. These research institutes, the mission is to bridge the gap between the universities and the industry. And I think they are doing a good work there.
So where do you place Tecnalia in the technology readiness level?
It's actually Tecnalia is in the middle. It's in what we call the Death Valley. Yeah. It's taking the science of the university, that they are doing a fantastic work up to TRL3, and taking this up to the industry to 8 or 9. And of course, when we reach 8 or 9,
someone jumps.
Many times, for example, in Tecnalia or Fraunhofer or this, Tecnalia has one division that is Tecnalia Ventures that creates a spin-off to many times to commercialize. And do business. Then this is the idea. It's from scratch to market. And this is a formula that are now in Sweden we have with RISE as well, and I think it's the right decision, because otherwise we always talk about the gap between the academia and the industry.
But I think the way you describe it from Tecnalia perspective, and how you really, Tecnalia, in my opinion, has a very focused funnel. I find that quite mature. I think so to some degree, maybe Tecnalia has done this a little bit longer. You have been modeling out of the German example, because it is in some ways an innovation funnel you're working on, from academia to commercialization, and to really have that goal so super clear, the way you describe the mission of Tecnalia. I think it's very good.
It's true that Tecnalia has been in the market for quite many years, learning the German model, and also looking that in US, for example, the model that they have based on the universities is not that successful. No. We have to be aware that in the universities, if you try to emulate this and go to high TRL, then the universities usually don't succeed there. Then you need some kind of intermediate entity that is doing that and talking to the R&D departments of the companies in order to fulfill the needs. Then, and also one thing that Tecnalia and the rest of research institutes in Europe, they are doing is not only they work with the local authorities and the local companies, but also there's a big network, a big and powerful network of research institute. Then in the same table, usually you have RISE, you have Fraunhofer, you have Tecnalia, you have all of this. Then the efforts in the EU arena can be coordinated, and this is quite an achievement.
And I think this is the big achievement, linking back to the whole coordination topic, to go in a coordinated way from university level into this intermediary. This gap needs coordination. And I think that's where, if you consolidate from the university to the research institutes, then the possibility of European coordination is the chance is higher.
Yeah, actually, sir, we have to recollect that when we look back in the first programs of research of the European Union, the research was good, and the European Union has been paying a lot of money, but the research was never transferred to the industry. Then for many years, the FP5, the Framework Program 5, FP6, etc., they were lacking this kind of fantastic demonstrators, fantastic pilots, never transferred to the industry.
And just to give people the understanding, FP5, 5, 6, 7, sorry, is the European research programs that they have to give funding to different projects.
Yeah, this is actually the old ones, let's say, right? Sorry, I shouldn't use these acronyms.
No, we use them, but then we take them.
But this kind of research was good, but not transferred to the industry. Yeah. And I think the EU is, and also for example, the local agencies like Binova, they realized that, okay, we need some entity that takes this fantastic research and take it up to high TRL, because otherwise the industry is not getting the benefits of this research that we all are paying as citizens.
The industries needs faster time to market, faster ROI, return on investment.
Yes.
So for them to bet on many big money on TRL 2 or 3 doesn't make so much sense. They need to be faster and closer to.
But then to turn that around a bit, perhaps, in normal different research fields, yes, this is the case. But in AI, I would argue that universities are so far behind these days that the industry is really leading both the application of the research and also the basic research itself. Would you agree with this?
Yes, I must agree with that. The universities don't work well always. This is the problem, and in AI, unfortunately, we are far behind.
Yeah,
this is something that is we are far behind, because also you have. Let me say that in the AI world, the companies, they have recruited very good
brain
people.
The brain drain. We had talked about this before. So in reality,
I can tell you that they have taken my students, PhD students, master students. It's coming with really good offers, and of course there's kind of talent attraction is really relevant. Then of course you have created one ecosystem where all the good brains go to you.
Yeah.
And it's
not to me, but yeah,
to the big giants.
Yeah, and many times, in terms of this is a market, and the universities cannot compete keeping this, because the salaries in the universities for research are not that high, and of course.
But speaking about this, because one topic that we speak about all the time is called the AI divide, and what we mean then with that is that a few, very, very few selected tech giants of the world, the Google, the Microsofts, the Amazon, Microsofts, and the Tencents, the Alibabas, and Baidu's, etc. in China, they are having all these amazing research teams, and they also have these amazing applications of the research as well, and they make so much money. And of course they cause the brain drain, and they can pay the big salaries, and they do that. But what's the solution to that? I mean, it seems to be concentrating all the competence into a very, very few selected companies. And how do we fix that? It's a very simple question.
Yeah, but let me,
it's a very hard question. I mean, this is for one. Do you agree with this problem that we're seeing? And how do we? Let
me say that first, you have mentioned the companies that we all mentioned. Okay, this is the big brothers in terms of AI. Yeah. But one thing that we cannot neglect, and is when we are in Europe, most of the companies that we are working here, small, medium companies, they cannot afford AI services.
Exactly. Yes.
And this is, very few weeks ago, I delivered one speech for Costa Rica. And they asked me about, what about AI, this, that is in the industry. And I said, this is the analytics for the rich people. Because we have to see that these cloud services, all the services that we are talking that the industry can get benefited and are provided by Huawei, by Microsoft. Not everybody can afford that. And you have many, many companies. And if you look the whole Europe, even in countries like, for example, Germany, they have noticed that the achievements of AI and Industry 4.0, they have not arrived to all the companies. Actually, in summary, Industry 4.0 in Germany, many people say has failed. Has failed because has been adopted by the big sharks. They have gotten huge benefit. And actually, if you look now in the pandemic, the big companies, they haven't lost almost nothing. In terms of benefits, they have been quite robust. But the small companies, they don't know what is Industry 4.0. They don't know what is AI. Yeah. And this is what is, for me, something that is a bit critical. How we can make some kind of a AI democracy to give these services to everyone.
Let's go back to Industry 4.0 and the fourth, industrial revolution and everything. But just to come back to Tecnalia a bit, and also perhaps compare that a bit to RISE that we have in Sweden. Do you think that is the solution, or for this kind of research institutes to come in and help combine, industry with academia, and in that way do that, or what do you think?
It's the model that is now adopted by almost everyone is that the universities will define all educational aspects, but the universities will have strong links with the research institute, in this case RISE or Tecnalia, in order to do several things. For example, sharing labs. If you have a good laboratory in KTH or in Chalmers or in Luleå, you don't need to replicate the same laboratory 3 times in Sweden. Right. RISE is coordinating several first-class labs, world-class, and these labs are available for all researchers of RISE, that many times the researchers also belong to the universities.
They have dual roles. Many times they have dual roles.
Yes, absolutely. For example, in Germany, if you go, many of the researchers, they have the business card of Fraunhofer, business card of the university, okay? But RISE is, in this case in Sweden, I think is doing a good job, is coordinating these efforts and going to Europe with one voice to help the industry. Because in that way, we don't have some kind of silos that, okay, this university is taking care of this industry. We have one infrastructure, is not duplicated, and its benefit and cost benefit is much, much more efficient.
Perhaps that is the nice, solution or compromise, at least, because the big tech giants, they have their own research, they have their own connection to academia, and they simply, do a brain drain and hire the academic people. But for normal companies, especially small, middle-sized companies, they can't have the big research team, they can't have all the connections to academia. So then you need, these kind of research institutes to actually collaborate with them?
Yes, many small and medium-sized companies, they can use these research institutes, and they can use even the labs of these institutes. Yeah. Then they can use for many labs that are world-class. These companies, they cannot afford these labs, but they can do the test in these labs. But not only that. For example, in Germany, Fraunhofer has been working to create some kind of a cloud services to provide this cloud service to the SMEs. And this is extremely important, because if a company that is 50 or 100 employees, maybe there's one guy of ICT in the company, this guy cannot handle the complexity of all the aspects that we are talking about, IoT, about analytics, about AI. If you can provide the infrastructure and the education from some kind of research institutes, and they don't have to do huge investments, then they can access to resources that otherwise they are just restricted to the very big companies, right?
But it's very interesting, because then in order to combat the whole critical mass, I'm reiterating now with my words, if I understand the conversation, like Google has they have it, right? They're so big. And now we have our university have something, but they need to have economies of scale. They need to have something in order to get, so this is from the university angle. And then if you flip the coin and look at who needs it, the small and business approach, they also need to have a coordinated approach, or they need to have critical infrastructure and all that. And then all of a sudden, what the research institutes has been going for is kind of filling that gap. I'm not sure they have fully realized their potential, because I think this is, if you take this train of thought the whole way, we also need to understand how we should pump up the research institute even more and actually give them a little bit more different mandate and objective.
Yeah, this is, when we talk about companies, we all like to talk about, okay, I'm working with ABB, I'm working with Mercedes, because they are such a big brands. But many times, what you say is totally true. The small companies, they need the access to that. Have we succeeded doing that? The answer is no yet. And I think this is, the Industry 4.0 this year, 2021, is 10 years of Industry 4.0. 2011 is, if I'm not wrong, is when the first concept of fourth industrial revolution pop up. After 10 years, can we conclude that we have succeeded? Technology-wise, partially yes. Is populated to all the companies? Definitely not. And this is maybe what we have to be aware. Industry 4.0 is populated in the big players, and they have gotten huge benefits, and you can see the economy of these big players. But the AI, the data science, is in the medium-sized companies? Not really. And this is something that we should think about it.
But this is talking about the AI divide, and a little bit even down to why we want to demystify AI and start this podcast and everything. The AI divide is real, and it's all about, if we have scarcity of resources, or very few is doing something and the rest of the world is not included in this, we will have a problem in the world. We know this throughout the times. If we have scarcity in oil, or a high concentration who owns the oil, we can see this. We know where this is going. And the real solution now is, how do we democratize AI? How do we accelerate the medium companies? Is actually for the society benefit of lifting the whole competence of a nation or a region. It's depending to lift the medium-sized companies, because from that pool we can increase in all angles. I think this is a really, really important message.
Yeah, actually, if we cannot make the technology accessible for every company, definitely we will not be able to grow. And this is the problem when the big companies, they are growing in a different growth rate rather than the SMEs. Then we have a huge problem for that. And this is something that we're talking about AI, but we are talking also about access to IoT technologies, software like PLM, analytics, data science, cloud, edge. All technologies that we are talking is like, even if you talk about, for example, augmented reality or a computer vision, is a technology that we assume that is populated. And it's not like this. In many companies, they cannot afford, or maybe they don't know even
how to get started.
Yeah, how to start from scratch for that. Because we are not in the research institutes and in the universities. These companies are not our target. However, in percentage, maybe they are 70% of the economy. Then we have to target that.
And I think, this is one of the worst mistakes that I think so many companies do. They believe it's a very like a junior mistake as an engineer, that you think, I better do this from scratch myself because I think I can. And, what they are that people are doing and companies are doing, I can do that as well. It's not that complicated. And that's the worst mistake, I think, that so many companies are doing. But if you think about this, then the best way to combat that is to make a very open and inclusive environment for the research institutes. So it's so easy for the new starter to go there and get started, and then that assumption will die as soon as you start talking to.
But let me answer what your Anders has been. You have been pointed as a very, very sensitive matter. It's because when we are talking about academia research, and let's say that in AI we have big players. You mentioned Huawei. You mentioned IBM. In the industrial we have Siemens, ABB, and others. Then we have sometimes their how can I say? Okay, this product from IBM or this product from Siemens is very expensive. Then in the academia, I'm going to do the academic version from scratch. And then for this company that cannot afford the IBM product, I'm going to do something small, just made by the university or made by the research institute. Yeah. This is a huge mistake. Huge mistake.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's but for that, what is really, really painful for me, and I'm trying very hard, believe me, is, okay, we have research institutes like Fraunhofer, Rice, Tecnalia, and we have universities like Luleå, KTH, Chalmers. It's not possible to grow together if IBM, Siemens, or I'm mentioning, or Huawei, they are not involved in the research with the research institutes and the universities. Then if we work together, we have to find a way with some kind of educational license, whatever. But if we are working in parallel silos and we never get together, definitely this is going to be a chaos. Yeah. And this is something that we have to
What's the incentive for the tech giants to work with academia in this case?
This is the problem. We have to find a way to collaborate, because if the way to collaborate is that IBM is just recruit my people and then it's not working with me, just take my people, then this is really difficult. Yeah. And what is the solution? For me, the solution that I have found, when I go to a company, and I go to many companies, many of them are very big. The companies, they believe that, okay, you as Tecnalia or you as Luleå, are you going to do this from scratch with Python or with whatever? No. In the market, you have these products. I can prescribe the technology for you, but you have to select the vendor. But one thing that is important is don't try to reinvent the wheel. Exactly. And we have excellent AI engines in the market in the different levels for operational technologies and for information technologies. Let's use it. Even in the research institutes, don't have the students or the researchers with Python or MATLAB. Let's try to find agreements with IBM, Siemens, Huawei to work with their products. Then they will see that we don't start from scratch and we are not that far away, right?
I love it. I have to do a Henrik quote here. I get goosebumps.
Goosebumps. Yeah. When someone, I always say that. Oh, he nailed it, and I'm like, it's like a Kodak moment, or is it like someone scores a goal? Yes, he scored. Oh, I get goosebumps.
Awesome. So, what's the future of Tecnalia? Before we leave that topic and move into Luleå, what do you think the future of Tecnalia is? Is it promising? Do you think it will expand? Is it something that should change? What do you think about the future?
Tecnalia definitely will grow up. It will grow up.
How many are they today?
It's almost 2,000 people.
2,000.
And will grow up to maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people in the future. It's because this is needed, of course. But the future of Tecnalia, I think, is promising. It's promising because if we don't have this entity bridging the gap, the universities are doing an excellent work, but the industry needs someone to leverage the knowledge in terms of practical things. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you one simple example. I work pretty much with the automotive industry. Yep. The automotive industry is when the universities cooperate with the automotive industry, they are very satisfied when they see the outcomes, but when you talk to them, they say, okay, what the university is doing is great, but I want to have it in my platform, running in my machines.
Yes. 24 months.
Yes.
12 months.
And the time to market, I cannot, what you are saying is nice, but don't tell me that will be ready in 5 years. My time to market must be less than a year. If you are going to take more than a year to bring this technology here, okay, bye-bye. I have to go.
Call me in 4 years.
Yes. Yeah. Then this time to market is definitely the research institutes. We need to play that role, reducing the time to market for the products that the industry has some interest from the universities.
I think it's well summarized.
Yes, and I get 5 different topics I'd like to continue with here, but I'm trying to bite my tongue not to do that right now. I'll add it to the list here later, so if we have time, we'll move into that. But let's speak about Luleå a bit. Perhaps you can start with speaking just a bit. How did you get in contact with Luleå and Sweden, perhaps?
This is let me 30 seconds to tell you something. The first time, I bought a car in Luleå, I bought an insurance for my car. It was a Saab. A Saab 95, really nice car.
Really nice. Now we can tell it 80s.
Then Then I called the insurance. Then I said, okay, I want an insurance. Blah, then the guy asked me, you are not Swedish? Then I say, no, I'm Spanish. He said, okay. He said, where are you? Then I say, I'm living in Luleå. Then the guy started laughing. He said, but what is one Spanish guy doing in Luleå with full of reindeers and mooses? Then I said, okay, what is this is something that I will never forget. I will never forget because the insurance guy, told me, do you need extra insurance in case you hit an animal? Then I said, what is that? He said, may I hit an animal? And he said, do you drive from Luleå to Kiruna? And I said, yes, because I work many times with projects in the mines. Then you need, because you may hit a reindeer. then I was so, I was really shocked. I start, this is many years back, and I still remember the guy laughing on phone. It's like, what a Spanish guy is doing in Luleå. Let me say that after I was a pro-rector of my university in Zaragoza for many years, and I needed to, I wanted to be in a sabbatical year doing some research out of Spain. And I went to Luleå just for 6 months. This
is a long 6 months.
Yeah, it's 6 months that are lasting.
What year was this?
Are the 6 longest months of the history. And then I went.
Is it 80s, 90s? Sub 95. It needs to be.
This is actually a very 12, 13 years. I bought a Sub 95 in a second hand, of course, but it was really nice car. I still remember that. And it's 12, 13 years now. And I went there just for 6 months. I fall in love of the Swedish system in the universities. I think I must say that the Swedish universities, they are very good having contacts with the industry. We were talking about the European system, the Bologna process by that time, and Sweden was really ahead of time deploying that, and I fall in love of that. The contacts, Luleå University is, of course, is far north, but the relations with the mining industry, the relations with they are. With Traffic Berket is gold. The relation is excellent. It's a very international university. I fall in love. Then finally, after 6 months, I extended for 2 years, and after 2 years, I'm still there. This is I must say that it was some decision. It's a tough decision, but my decision to go there was because the group there, by the time that I went, was the biggest group in Europe talking about intelligent maintenance. By that time, the group in Luleå was a leader. We are still maybe the biggest group. But
because you even had the conference, the Intelligent Maintenance Conference,
yes,
and was one of the first.
Yeah, actually, we have been talking about the concept of e-maintenance. E-maintenance, all maintenance aspects are powered by computing. It's very long ago when AI was no there almost. We were talking about e-maintenance. Then I think it was a decision that changed the life. I went just for 6 months, and I'm still there.
But it's interesting because it's a very international university. You have Uday Kumar as well.
Actually, Uday Kumar, that is the head of the group, and has been always a leading person in this topic. The connections of Luleå University I must say that, for example, I have been teaching in Maryland or in Chongqing University, Sunderland. The connections, the Luleå as an international hub is amazing. Definitely there is true that the climate definitely is harsh, and you may hit a reindeer time to time, but the university is excellent. But not only the university, the way that the Swedish universities work together, because I cannot say bad words from any Swedish university, because I have been working in many projects, Luleå with Linköping, with KTH, with Chalmers, and this is really excellent. I must say that also during 3 years, I was in Skövde professor of maintenance, and I had the chance to chair the Volvo the Volvo Group in maintenance research there in Skövde, and it was excellent as well. Then I think it's for me, the relation between the industry and the universities in Sweden, I think is something rather unique. Is the
Interesting.
The research ecosystem is rather unique.
So it's interesting, because otherwise you wouldn't have stayed, and you make this. Is it your first home or second home now?
Now I actually I could say that my mother says that I'm a sophisticated homeless, Yes, because I should have some tent in the back. Actually, I don't really know where is my home, but I try to enjoy wherever I am. But for many years has been my home. Now I'm maybe 50-50, but for many years has been my home, and this has been something different in my life.
And this is swinging back to the context of your life and the pandemic, because your life and your what you're passionate about, and how you are sort of, in my opinion, a Europolitan. The Europolitan life was hit from the pandemic. So it's interesting to hear your view of the pandemic, because your way of life.
Yeah, actually, the pandemic changed dramatically everything. This is, I'm not sure for many people, but for me, that I can take 10 to 15 planes every month. It's suddenly lockdown, no trips, and the horizon that was really, really uncertain. And we were not sure when this, because I still remember the first lockdown in Spain that I was, 12 March last year I was in Spain, and the government decided to lock down the country for 2 weeks. And I thought, my God, 2 weeks, this is terrible. These 2 weeks were 3 months, and 1 year and a half we are still going back to normality. Then, of course, as a human, you really wonder, okay, shall we go back to normality, or this is going to be the normality like this? And this is something that is, when you suddenly shut down all your activities, and you change the face-to-face meetings with the Teams, with the Zoom, with this is the personal touch, because at the end of the day, the humans, we are social animals. Yeah. And if we don't have the human touch, something wrong in our brain starts triggering, right? And then this has been tough. Yes, for me it was tough in the beginning. I must admit that.
Yeah, we leave the topic. I just wanted to make that, for me, it's a different level of talking the pandemic with someone like yourself, Diego. So
this is for me has been tough in it, and I can understand that many people has been really, really affected by that. Then now we have to take care of this post-pandemic situation that is not going to be easy, because the damage in the people is we can repair the damage in the assets, but the damage in the people is the fingerprint in the brain of many people is going to take years to repair.
Cool. But then you got a full professorship, right? And it is in a topic that I'm not really sure what it means. So please explain it to me. But it's in the topic of condition monitoring.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah, condition monitoring is basically all technologies to take care of the health of the machines. I like to say that we are like the doctors of the machines. And in condition monitoring, we try to see what is wrong with the machine in order to schedule one action as soon as possible and prevent the damage. And it's exactly what you do with that. It's when you check your temperature, your blood pressure, this is condition monitoring. You are monitoring your condition in order to take a tablet, a painkiller, or go for surgery. Of course, you don't want to go for surgery. The machines, they don't want to go for corrective maintenance. If we can do some minimal action with minimal intervention, then minimal impact, and then we can put the machine up and running again very soon. Then it's basically it's about the health of the machines. Yes.
Awesome. I know it's just like a a sickness of mine that I thought, conditional monitoring, because I'm so into AI kind of thing. But this is basically the condition of a machine that they're trying to.
Yeah, it's the condition of the machine. This is and then this topic is new and is not new at the same time. It's not new in the sense that we have had condition monitoring for many years. We have checking vibration, temperature, whatever. But now, in the last 10 years, is when we have a lot of data. The Internet of Things, they have provided cheap sensors with technology in order to collect a lot of data from the machines. We can have now thousands of parameters with a sampling rate that is, then you can have gigabytes of information. So, for example, you can take just one engine of a plane is producing several gigabytes per second. Several gigabytes per second that are sent out to General Electric or Rolls-Royce or wherever, and in real time, they are doing the condition monitoring of that engine. Then means that engine is monitored in real time, producing a lot of data and extracting information. I'm doing this separation of data and information because this is where AI comes into the picture in two things. For me, the moment that we have a lot of data, but we need to convert it into information, okay, who can keep up with that complexity?
Good.
Let me say that I learned in one of the conferences that you have organized some years ago. When I heard about the digital butterfly effect, I fall in love with the topic.
The butterfly effect.
Yeah,
that was at the conference.
The digital butterfly effect for me was great because then I realized that, okay, if I'm collecting so much data and I have to filter the data and take my decision based on the data, can I keep up with that complexity? I cannot. I need AI engines to decide, to filter out the information, because in the past, 20, 30 years back, one vibration is like one electrocardiogram. Okay, you can analyze that. But instead of that, if you have hundreds or thousands of sensors reading, can a human keep up with that? Maybe if you try to do it, you neglect something and you have a catastrophic effect. That is the digital butterfly effect.
I love it. And it's actually very similar to what I usually try to speak about when I try to compare the humans versus the machine, or the humans versus AI, and try to see what is really machines good at and what is humans good at. And one thing you can say, which is basically what you said right now, is that humans are really bad at going through a huge amount of data, like gigabytes per second. I mean, there's no way a human can even have a chance to go through that. But machines are rather good at that. And they can do that perhaps not in a super deep way, but in a superficial way that is interesting. And then potentially we can leave that to humans to only look through the most important parts. And then they can do a more deep analysis of the more important part, right?
One thing that I have been working for many years is, decision support systems, because in the industry you need to take decisions.
Yes.
And the decisions are, when you take a decision, you take a risk. Then you have to be able to say, okay, I'm willing to take that risk, I take the decision. You know how many indicators a human can keep up in terms of taking a decision? 6 or 7. 6 or 7 indicators. Figures is the maximum number that you can see at a glance and decide. Actually, this is the dimension that you have in the panel, for example, of your car. We are not that intelligent as many people think. When you are in your car, you have the RPM of your car, you have the speed, you have the oil temperature, you have several indicators. There are no more indicators. No, you could put 50, but it's not usable because the human cannot keep up with that. And not only that, let me say that even the human needs some kind of harmony. Have you noticed that the indicators in the car, for example, the 120, the needle is actually straight. When you are driving your car in normal conditions, all indicators are in this position. In this way, you don't have any kind of conflict in your brain. And this is very important because if we have many indicators, we have real conflicts in the brain to decide. Then we cannot keep up, and definitely, as you say, and as the machines can decide much better and can handle is a big amount of data. Yes.
In some way, if you were to put it really poorly, I guess it's a bit fascinating how stupid humans are. Or we shouldn't say stupid, but we should perhaps say how limited we are in terms of being able to process a huge amount of data at the same time, right?
It's true that compared with the computation that we have now, we are stupid. Mm-hmm. But the human still has one thing that the computers or the animals, they don't have. You know what is the depth awareness? Actually, the concept of awareness is something that the computers don't have and the animals, they don't have either. It's when I say depth awareness, the human is the only animal that knows that is going to die sometime. The rest of the animals, they are not aware of that. You can see a cat or a dog and they don't know that they are going to pass away. That's why the uniqueness of the humankind is this depth awareness. The moment that we can provide to the computers, to the machines, this kind of awareness, this kind of many people think call it conscious or whatever awareness that they are there. Yeah. They have to do some kind of self-preservation and self-awareness. Then we have transferred to the computers something that is rather unique. And we are stupid, but still we are the only animal or thing that has this kind of awareness.
You mentioned the word consciousness, and I am so eager to jump into that trap because I listen to too many Lex Friedman kind of shows.
But
but we shouldn't do that.
We should, because I have seen several of Diego's lectures, and we are talking about the robotic laws and how we can apply that in condition monitoring. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to this topic of consciousness and how to understand machines, there are several of your papers and lectures on exactly this topic. And so I think Diego will handle philosophical conversations. So I think go ahead. I think this is really good, Anders.
Okay. Should we move to that topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Consciousness?
Consciousness on machines. Machine consciousness.
Okay. Let me do a very improvised intro, on my view of things.
Okay.
And please then say what you think and disagree with me, please. And so many people, I think, over romanticize what consciousness really means and what it is. I mean, in some way it's about trying to be aware of the world and yourself in that world, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can try to measure that in different ways, and you can say, it's very easy to make a human unconscious. Either you go to sleep or you have some kind of anesthesia, or you can just through some very simple means make a person unconscious. So what does that really mean? Well, I think people over romanticize, what consciousness means. But in some way, it's about trying to have a mental model of the world where you understand that in this kind of situation, this is the state of affairs that we have right now, and this is the best way to take an action. And that can be done surprisingly easy, I would say. It's not so extremely magical that if I were to mention, for example, Lex Friedman, that he continuously say that consciousness is so hard to replicate, I would actually disagree in some sense. What do you think?
Yes, you have said something that I really like. It is a number of, let's say, parameters, variables that define your context. This is the world that is that you are living, and this is. To define for me the awareness is the awareness for a machine or a robot or is whatever needs to define the surrounding context around, and be aware of this context is what is going to make the difference between a machine that is aware of the things or not. Like if the same machine in different context can behave differently. And then this means that it's aware of the context. But this is awareness for me. This is okay. You can get awareness. Consciousness, I may disagree a bit.
Oh, good.
I may disagree because consciousness for me is when you are. It's a very philosophical talk, but the machine is aware that is there, and also is aware of its limitations. And for me,
are humans aware of their limitations?
The main one, that you are going to pass away. And this is, for me, this is the, I'm going to put you one simple example. If you are running, doing jogging in the street, and you keep a constant speed of 10 kilometers per hour, but your heart rate is increasing because you are not in good shape, if you keep the performance, you may pass away. You are not that stupid that, if my heart rate is increasing, maybe I should slow down because I'm going to kill myself. The machines are not that clever. If the health is...
But please don't confuse it with intelligence, because we can, I think, all agree that machines today are super stupid compared to humans in the terms of very many dimensions.
Yeah, but provide consciousness is, I would like, now is something that we can expand. Is something that I would like to find. I'm really open to find ways to provide some kind of consciousness to the machines, because I think the next generation of the industry and the transport and all the assets that are surrounding ourselves is when the machines are provided some kind of consciousness.
But isn't this, if we follow the logical progression, you have a standalone machine with no data on its surroundings. Then you get awareness around your closest surroundings and the really interfacing processes. And all of a sudden you can start getting a contextual awareness where the machine can make smaller adjustments depending on, I know I have 3 other machines next to me, so we can share the load, etc., etc. And if you expand on that concept, we are essentially talking about a neural network of data and information that stepwise can grow. So the point, where would you define it as awareness of context versus consciousness? To me, mathematically becomes the progression of how much data and experience the machine has in its thinking of making the next best action. Do you agree?
Yeah, actually, it's true that maybe from the context awareness is the rudimentary
level one.
Yeah, level one of the consciousness, and we are moving there. Definitely, there is, I think, things like deep learning and many techniques. They are moving in that direction, and it's connecting this complex context. Actually mitigating or confronting this digital butterfly effect that we were saying, because it's not that transparent for us. Let me say one thing. I don't really like when people want with the explainable AI to understand everything is happening in the AI. For me, the AI itself shouldn't be transparent. This is something that
this is another topic on its own.
But if we want to go in different steps of the context awareness up to the consciousness, we need to move in this kind of concept of black boxes. For me, it's something that is going to be.
And I think. Yes, but I also really think the level of consciousness will, in the same way as we in NLP make bigger and bigger models with more and more data to train on. So the consciousness comes on the size of the network it's connected to, and where it gets inputs on how to train and get experiences from.
Yeah, actually,
so I think it's a lot about how much data and how it's connected to different data.
But it's not only data collected by the machine. It's also the topic that we have commented about, social networks of data. That is something that is not the human intervention. When you are providing the data sources and you are limiting the machine, you are going to be drinking from these sources, not other sources. No. The moment that we open that, the machine can take data from wherever it wants, because it may connect to the machine that is side by side, and this data is relevant, include it in your context without any kind of human intervention. Then maybe the growth from context to consciousness is much faster.
So you are saying, how can we make in the same way as we try to have machine learning or a different way of coding in terms of we learn by getting more data and try it out. The social network of the machines is a little bit like opening up so we can allow the machine to take in more data and understand if it's relevant or not.
Yes, actually, imagine some collaborative network like a Facebook or Twitter of machines, okay, with no human intervention, where in a factory or in a fleet of trains or wherever, one train says, okay, this event has happened, for me it's relevant. Then another guy says, okay, for me it's relevant as well, I take it. Then it's or this is, be careful with this, or I need maintenance, okay, me too. These kind of things that, okay, they talk among them, they decide what is the information that they are going to adopt, and even the models. We have in the AI, we have federated learning, we have multi-agent, we have many techniques that are maybe the rudimentary tools for this social network of machines. But let's imagine that we provide the environment for the machines to talk in an M2M environment, machine-to-machine environment, and share information, data, events, models, suppliers, and they learn from each other. Then, without the human intervention, the growth rate in terms of learning is going to be much faster.
Yeah.
I'm really biting my tongue here not to comment too much about these things, because I think, for me, philosophical discussions about consciousness and man versus machines and explainable AI, as you brought up, is a super interesting topic. But let me just try to bite my tongue a bit more and continue on the social network, because I think it can be connected to the levels of self-driving cars that we have. They range from 1 to 5, where 5 is basically that you don't even have a wheel. It's no wheel kind of car.
Okay.
So you can't even take control if you wanted to.
This is level 5.
This is level 5. Yeah. No wheel. And basically then you can see the car as an autonomous car. It's driving around and it can do the work much better than anything else. And if any human were to intervene, that would be a reduction in the quality of the driving in terms of safety and efficiency. But there is something that some people call level 6 driving. And I think that's basically what you mean with the social network of machines, because that is when you have level 6 autonomous self-driving cars, that basically means they are communicating with each other. So it means that when they're driving around, on a highway, all the cars are communicating with each other. So they know much faster than by just using their own sensors. They know that, 100 meters or 5 kilometers ahead, there is an accident. And they communicate, in real time with each other. And they have a social network of machines or cars that allows them to interact in a way that is so much more efficient than if they were to simply make a decision based on their own single car kind of.
Yeah, actually, I think it's the techniques of federated learning and transfer learning. They are very powerful in that. And we should move in that. Let's say that you have a neural network or any machine learning technique in one car, and this model is evolving. But this model is maybe good, but maybe some car that is driving somewhere else, the model that it has is much better. Then, okay, don't share the data, share the models. And then I take the model, and then my learning growth is much, much faster. I think if we are able to share that, it's like, okay, if you have a way to learn Russian in 2 weeks, then please share your way to learn Russian, because we will all get benefit of that. And this is something that is don't share 1,000 books in Russian. Share the way to learn Russian. And I think this federated learning and multi-agent is we have the ingredients to cook this food of social networks. But again, we are still in the very, very beginning of that.
But I think this is important to have this type of conversations is that we need to have a vision where we think the direction is going. Because if we don't have this vision of direction, we don't know where to put our efforts in the basic research. I take the example of federated learning, and we can discuss how good or bad that is. But if you fundamentally believe that we will we will go for what we now talk about is a networked ecosystem in a completely different league of what we're talking about today. Within an industry, transport ecosystem, then basically that has a huge impact on how we think about how we build systems. Already today, here and now, we can decide, do I build a system that is not good at sharing data? Or do I build a system that is built in such a way that in the core DNA, the core design pattern, it has an input port, output port, it has a way to connect? Can I make my systems today federated machine learning ready? Now imagine if I now need to build a data platform in Scania, and I make the decision to build it the old way, or at least make it ready for federated machine learning, edge intelligence and stuff like that. I will be in a huge, much better position without, I can be future-proof even by understanding the direction where the world is going. I can't solve it today, but I can make sure I don't dig the hole deeper.
Yeah, actually, what you say is the problem of this, but this logistic problem, but is there. It's the problem of the machine-to-machine communication to create this social network of machines is okay. If let's imagine that we have the metro of Stockholm, and we want the trains talking each other. This is doable. You can do it, and it's not that.
It's almost like a closed system.
Yeah, it's like a small fleet with all the peers are same. But imagine that you are talking in a factory with a robot, a conveyor belt, some kind of a press machine, wherever, and you want them to talk among them. The systems, the operational technologies there in terms of PLCs, etc., are different. All the systems are proprietary systems, totally locked, and machine-to-machine communication is not possible. What is the solution that we are foreseeing now? Okay, if the assets cannot talk among them, maybe the digital twins of the assets can. Then let's go one level up. I create the digital twins of all my assets, and the digital twins talk among them. And this is the architecture that we are now trying to foresee if it works, because this is very relevant for us to see, okay, if we have to overcome the complexity of the machine-to-machine communication, let's go to a level where the digital entities, the digital twins, they are going the ones that they are going to talk. And this is the current, the state of the art now that we are trying to foresee.
So, for 20 years ago, I was into the semantic web and these kind of things. We're trying to represent the knowledge that we have on the internet in a logical fashion. And we have stuff like description logic, etc. It tries to use as a way of reasoning about the facts that we have and know about in the web. And this turned out to be a complete disaster, and nothing really turned out from that, and everything has been dropped today. But I think still the core idea of having a machine-to-machine kind of language and a way of communicating is super important. What do you think is, if we can't go the symbolic way, which the semantic web was about, do you still believe that's the proper way, or do you think another way is better, or do you have any thoughts about that?
All the attempts to standardize the communication between machines, they have failed. Yeah, because it's due to actually it's economical reasons. I have worked with Mimosa, OSA CVM protocols that try to connect at least create one standard to transfer the information between machines, even though the systems running there in terms of OT, IT are different. For me, physical connection with these protocols will never be standardized because the big players are not interested on that. And then we have to go one level up, as I mentioned, as digital entities talking among them, because in the physical world, if you go to the industrial settings, for example, Ethernet and all these protocols is a nightmare to connect the machines using this. Then if you want to go for something where all big players can get together, we have to go to the cloud. For me, it's a mix. Let me say that it's a mix of edge and cloud, right? It's a mix of edge and cloud where you have some local intelligence on site, but the cloud is having your Facebook, and then the machines, they have the physical, let's say, shame, the digital shame there, and then it's where they share the data.
But this, so we are talking about ecosystem thinking in several dimensions now. The ecosystems of different machines in terms of how basically we can get them to collaborate. You can take this many ways. And then we are talking about the distributed system in relation to edge and central.
Yeah.
Maybe we should explain a little bit what is the we have talked about the different machines and get them to talk, and now we enter another dimension of distributed edge versus intelligence. Could you just elaborate a little bit on?
But before we move into that, I mean, I think it's still interesting to try to just elaborate a bit more. How do we really make machines communicate?
But I think that's the reason. I think going here is the same question.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry. Okay, is there the aspect of edge is and cloud? There's a big fight for some people to define. Okay, shall we go for totally decentralized or totally centralized? For me, the edge, is in the edge computing, you will always have some services. Some services are really interesting to have it on site, and for example, services like health or some kind of performance monitoring, etc. You can have on the edge computing. But if you want to look not the short term, the mid or the long term, the information of the edge definitely must be shared in the cloud. How the machines should communicate? Okay, let's imagine that you have a machine that has some kind of local intelligence with edge, and in the cloud you have the digital twin of this machine. The digital twin of this machine is what we call the virtual commissioning of the machine. It means that we have to create a digital entity that is recreating the data that the machine is collecting, okay, and making this digital entity with the data understandable by the other machines that you consider peers. Okay. Then you made some digital replica in the cloud where the format of the data is understandable for all the peers in the population.
So here, because now edge to collect, edge to steer the physical machine.
Actually, I must disagree here a bit, because I think edge versus centralized is a completely different discussion than actually making machines understand and talk to each other.
Okay.
So I think to just make it easier to communicate here between us humans, not machines, then I think it's good to separate the two topics.
Okay, let's do that.
And then, if I were to just try to describe what I mean is that, instead of doing the symbolic way of trying to have logic to define this is what I mean with this fact and this is how I should communicate in a standardized way between any kind of service in a plant or whatever, perhaps there is another way to communicate in a higher abstraction level or something, right?
Yes, this is, I think, for me so far is the only way to overcome the connectivity issues that are by the big players, right? And I think we cannot neglect that the digital twins, they have given us digital twin is nothing that is extremely new. We have doing this for many years in a different ways, but at least now we have the idea that maybe creating this digital replica, all that you mentioned, Andres, about semantic web, etc., now makes sense when we put it in the format of this kind of digital entities talking among them.
But I don't think the symbolic way is the way to go. Or do you believe that? Or
for me, that now we are facing the dilemma of this. I'm not very fan of the concept of the hybrid AI, right? I don't really know what is the best combination.
Yeah.
Can you unpack a little bit on hybrid AI?
Yes, it's a bit. So we have the old style GoFi, so it's called good old fashioned AI. That was the manually defined rule based kind of AI. If you want to translate text from one language to another, well, you manually write down the grammars and the rules, and you don't do any kind of learning approach. You simply manually define the grammar of the language and try to make translation in that way. That turned out to be a complete failure, and of course it doesn't work and it's too hard. Then, you turn to a more machine learning approach where data is used to learn the rules instead of trying to manually define them. And that moves into the machine learning world and has some kind of more soft representation of what knowledge is, instead of having a symbolic representation with hard facts of what knowledge is. So I would say that's one way to describe it, at least, the symbolic versus a more machine learning approach.
And what is hybrid?
And the hybrid is a combination of the two. So
combining rule-based with machine learning.
With machine learning.
Yeah. Which I don't have much faith for. What do you think, Diego?
Not really. This is for me. It's I really believe that semantic ontologies and the evolution of semantic ontologies is going to be crucial, at least in the first stage, to provide this kind of communication for the machines. So far, my experience is that many people are doing AI just based on machine learning, doing a very soft learning. Yeah. But they don't go to any kind of complex ontologies. Yeah. And I think maybe it's at least to describe the reality, you need an ontology. And
a manually defined ontology, you think, or a data learned?
No. It has to be some kind of a self-learning ontology.
Then I agree.
Then self-learning ontology, then it will be able to be scaled up in a good way. Otherwise, it's a very manual task that will go nowhere. Yeah.
Remember the old Psych project? Do you heard about that? Okay, doesn't matter. Now it was a huge research project in trying to define what common sense means, and they tried to add all the rules in a symbolic way for tens of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. From the 80s to the 90s.
Did it go anywhere?
They did a lot of stuff that no one ever used. But it didn't go that much. But so it's super hard. To manually define rules it's not a scalable approach. I think in the short.
But I want to bear with me a little bit. I want to dumb it down a little bit for my own sake, so I understand it. So if I summarize, we basically say that to get the protocols of the different machines to be standardized across the different vendors who has no real monetized incentive to do that will never happen. But if we take the data from here and collect it in a digital twin that then has to be in the cloud, it allows us to work with cloud technology and very standardized open protocols in terms of how data is shared and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we can start. I highlight. Have a much better chance to talk about standardization, open source approaches that is then based on that we are inside the cloud. So we have now taken many different OT technologies and protocols, and we have sort of standardized on the fundamentals of how we build big data.
Yeah, actually, it's the good thing is that we don't have any kind of restriction to create our digital twin. Then the digital twin, we can play with that. We can create a digital twin based on the data that we are collecting, with ontologies, with physical models.
We have flexibility now.
Yeah, we have
creativity. We can do whatever we want in a different way.
The only thing that we have to be aware is that, okay, when you create these digital entities, you have to create the entities talking a language that they can understand, because the physical entities that they are reflecting, they cannot understand each other. No. And this is what we call the virtual commissioning. We are taking this to one digital space where they are talking. For example, we can use Mimosa or any other industrial protocol to communicate, to communicate and transfer pictures, text, events, models, or whatever. And in this cloud, one thing that is important is that everything is happening in the cloud. Then there are no massive transfer of data of data from the edge to the cloud. And in terms of sustainability that you were mentioning, Henrik, I think it's much, much better. We cannot have one continuous flow of data
the whole time.
Because in terms of energy and bandwidth, is totally unrealistic. Then this way I think is much, much more doable.
So connect back to, like your logic, and I appreciate this. It's like the hardcore fact how we get machine to talk. So one of the prerequisites as a hypothesis now is to make that happen. We need to move it into the central cloud, because then we have the environment.
It's two different topics. Please don't.
I don't think it's two different. It's two different topics, but one is a prerequisite to solve it.
I wouldn't say so. No, you can do both edge and centralized communication in the same way. But to just try to make the communication a bit easier, human to human. We were speaking a bit about long term, how we can really make machines talk to each other and disregarding the humans, and that's one way to do it. Another way is, how do we do it more short term? If you want to have something working in 5 years, that we have an industry that want to make the next kind of intelligent maintenance plant where we can really make a machine understand by itself, it's really time to do something, otherwise it will break down. How do we do that? Then I think one way would be to go for the really long-term goal of moving to a soft kind of learned representation of how to communicate, or you do some standardization, or you do some kind of protocol that you speak about that we know is limited, but at least it will work short-term. And perhaps I would say that's more, realizable in short term at least. What do you think, Diego?
For short term, if we take, let's say, 5 years as short term, that is 5 years is now quite long. Yeah. But yes, sir. One thing that is important, I couldn't start a process of standardization. This, for me, just trying to put fences everywhere is never good. Then for me, the main point here is, okay, when we create the social network of the machines in the cloud, for example, connecting the digital twins, that is what we are talking now, what is the main purpose, what is the main service you want, or at least the first service you want to get benefited from this social network? For example, we talk about a prediction of the remaining useful life of maintenance needs, or just production planning. Then from this, we have to cascade down what we need for that. And this is something that, for example, in terms of maintenance needs, is maybe the easiest way, in the sense that is to provide to the machine what we have called the self-preservation. Okay, the main goal is that in this social network, the main goal is that the machines communicate to keep the health as high as they can. Yeah. Then, if we have this kind of statement that, okay, the goal of the machines is to keep the health as high as they can. Okay, then we can define they should share models, they should share events, they should share performance. And then they can do it in an unattended way. But it's important to define the service and then define what is going to be shared. Because if we are connecting the machines, but there's no clear goal, we will go nowhere.
Yeah. So what you're saying once again is that we can think and theorize of how this should be done, but you always need to start with the core business question first. You need to be super clear on what you're trying to do, because then you can limit, or you can have a starting point, what to connect and what to be shared.
Yeah, actually, it's in this case, if you are talking in a assembly line where you have 4 or 5 type of machine, different robot, conveyor belt, or whatever, it's if the conveyor belt is having a problem and has to tell the robot, please slow down because I'm having a problem, then we are sharing performance and health. Then we have to be clear, okay, what is the goal of the machines? We need to is maximize the performance, maximize the health, then we will be able to create services tailor-made for this, and the social network will be able to be able to scale up with more services. But in the beginning, we cannot create one open architecture for all kinds of services. We need to define first what are the very, very first level services that the machine.
Focus on this.
And for me, the machines, and is the same as the humans. The humans in the Stone Age what was the first service? Self-preservation. Was raining, they were going to a cave. They needed to have some food. This kind of self-preservation. We have to create this kind of service for the machines, the self-preservation.
Awesome. The time is flying away and we have like 20 minutes left. I'd love to move into some more philosophical topics if we may. And,
I like it.
And perhaps one thing a term that you have mentioned a lot during the time so far, Diego, is industry or the fourth, industrial revolution. For me at least, we can see so many different definitions of what does that even mean, and the first and the second and the third revolution, what was really that? But do you have a preferred way to define the fourth industrial revolution?
Yes, sir. This is a very good question. Actually, when you look the formal definitions, everything is for all kind of ICT technologies, powering the industry for performance monitoring and failure forecasting. This is the formal definition that the Germans usually give. But let me be totally unpolite in this way.
Yes, please. We love it.
For me, there's no such fourth industrial revolution. Yes, sir. The third industrial revolution with the automation was something totally new. For me, now we have a 3.5, but never fourth.
I like it. Yes.
For me,
I agree too. I fully agree.
If you see the timeline with the industrial revolutions, I can say okay, the first one is clear with the steam engines, etc. Then it's the assembly line that is okay. This is nice. The third with the automation, I think it's robots, PLCs. I think they changed the paradigm. But for me, what we have from the third revolution is not a fourth revolution; it's the evolution. And there's
good.
So you have had
an evolution, not
so
a
right now we have been talking and we've been selling the data promise, but we haven't really done anything that is not incremental.
No, there actually there's no
there's no revolution.
There's
in the
no
revolution.
milestone that changes dramatically. If in the timeline when you see the industrial revolutions, the first, second, and third, there's a date that creates a milestone. And the industry, the day after, was entirely different. Here is because someone said that, okay, we have the fourth industrial revolution here.
But I truly, truly believe in this strong statement. And I talk in other topics and on conferences that we are going from a different micro life cycles. And I highlight the industrial revolution where automation of muscle power was in focus. And where the true next revolution in general is the automation of brain power. And then we're talking about the fundamental pivot on how we are thinking data AI first. And what I then highlight is that we're on the ending curve of the S curve of the industrial revolution, but there are very few companies who have moved and are now pioneers or in the growth stage of the next macro life cycle. And in fact, we are talking about the tech giants. They are in the next macro life cycle of data and AI first, while what we are talking about industrial setting is still evolution on the second curve. The real pivot that where we are reimagining the whole factory floor has not happened.
Yeah, actually, it's during the period between the revolutions. We have had evolutions, and it's what you describe, and this is really nice. The problem is, I think, I don't want to make it too simple, but I think there was a need of a fourth industrial revolution, and we created that revolution. But for me, there was, and it's not bad. The evolution is natural, But when we call revolution or evolution, it's because, okay, if we have a transformational or supportive technology or a disruptive technology. And for me, this is entirely different. If you have one steam engine or one, or from today or tomorrow, if you have today, for example, the cars running from diesel to hybrid, this is revolution. No, this is evolution. You have the driver, you have the same. But if tomorrow, as you mentioned, Anders, you don't have any driver, you don't have a steering wheel, this is disruption. Mm-hmm. And I think we are moving still in this, because if you go to the factories and you go to the PLCs and robots, believe me, it's not that different from the 90s. No. Then don't tell me that this is fourth industrial revolution. Tell me that, okay, it's a natural evolution, very good evolution, but we are still evolving. It's not
the disruption of the core factory.
No, it's transformation. That means evolution, but it's not a disruption. A technology didn't jump into the picture and change absolutely everything.
I love it, Diego. And I couldn't agree more. It's important to not overstate, when you have revolutions, when you don't really do that. And I remember there is this book from AIAW. He had a book called Prediction Machines, and he spoke about different types of disruptions. And he didn't really compare to the industrial revolutions, but he basically said, the transistor was one thing that really changed the world. It made people not having to sit and manually calculate stuff. You can use a computer suddenly, thanks to the transistor, to do calculation. And then another big disruption was the internet, rather. And that really made it possible to distribute information or distribute products and services in a way that never was possible before. And then he says he has a third disruption. After the transistor, the internet, and the third is AI, actually. And I think he actually says that AI is going to be an even bigger disruption than what the internet and what the transistor was. And I really like his way of describing that. And I could speak more about that, but I think this is such a profound way, what really changed the behavior. Then you see a disruption.
But if you look at AI in the context of fourth industrial revolution, we have started talking about AI the last 3-4 years. Yeah. Then it's because we have talked. If you look back 2011, the fourth industrial revolution was IoT. There's a lot of IoT, big data analytics. That was something really popular. Augmented reality. Then it's in fourth industrial revolution, instead of some technology that was disruptive, the society put a bunch of technologies together: big data analytics, IoT, augmented reality, computer vision, and all these things is Industry 4.0. No, before 2011, there was computer vision, there was augmented reality, there was IoT. The conjunction of everything is true that has made the industry evolving quite much. And I think the AI will be the next disruption. Yeah. And let me say that, for example, sometimes I have the chance to travel, as you know, very much, and I had the chance to be in Huawei in Shenzhen some time ago, and I could see the progress of Huawei and Foxconn when it comes to the AI, and they are foreseeing a real revolution. But this revolution, for me, is not here yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so 10 minutes left. And okay, we should choose between two topics now. And you can choose, Diego. One is...
It's up to you, Anders.
No. I want to ask you, because you're the star here. One could be about the research and the future of this research in general. And what I mean with that is that, for one, we are seeing research being moved from academia into industry, and also we're seeing this, the archive kind of movement where people are just publishing in the preprints rather than going for the big conferences and journals, and people are referencing archive instead of the journals more and more. And is that a good or bad movement? That could be one topic. Another one would be more into, I don't want to say this. No, okay. I actually go back from this.
No, please say.
Take it.
Seems that is the interesting topic.
Now he sold it, didn't he? He sold it. He sold the second one. He does this all the time. He's a really good salesman.
Okay.
No, I really don't want to go here. Now, it's more about, the future of AI. What do you think about, what will happen if AI continue to evolve? Will there be a singularity and these kind of questions? But we've been talking about this so many times. I don't think we should go there once again.
We go this in the after
yes.
work. We have plenty of time to talk singularity off camera.
Okay.
but you being such a distinguished scientist as you are, and with so many awesome publications and everything, what do you think really about the future of research? Do you think the movement, at least in computer science and AI, it's moving so much away from conferences and journals, and there is so much discussions about peer reviewing is not really working well and everything. What do you think about that?
Actually, the problem is that I'm really sad because I have to agree with you. That is, and I would like to say that the academia is in the front end. We are doing well in AI, and we are the source that the companies are drinking from us. It's not like this. It's not like this. And in terms of AI, what you can find in the universities still is in universities and everywhere is still, we are very classical. What do I mean with classical? Our metrics in the academia are totally outdated.
It is, right?
For example, you have to produce to be a PhD, you have to produce a number of papers. Yeah. These papers has to be published in certain journals with certain
acceptance rates.
Acceptance rate and ranking, etc. Yeah. Then, if this is the metrics that you are going to be assessed, people follow that metrics. But doesn't mean that the metrics are okay. Are okay for the goal to get a PhD. But they are not okay because when I go to the companies, and I was mentioning Huawei or Foxconn, but when I go to them in Shenzhen, and they are in the top, believe me, and I ask them, have you checked this article? No. Which article? Or this? No. They don't go to these information sources. Then the problem is how many times one article that is included in a PhD thesis has been read, not by another academician to cite it, by some industrial guy. Very few times.
Right.
Then this is some kind of situation where we are totally separated from the industry. And this is something that we have to bridge that gap, because that gap in the field of AI is much higher every day. For example, in fields like, let me say, material science or many other fields, we are running parallel, and maybe the companies, they don't have maybe R&D departments focus on that, and they still rely on the universities. For AI, it's not the case. Yeah. For AI, let me say that before AI, in terms of industrial, what we were talking, industrial revolution, is the same. It's IoT, big data analytics. The companies, they have done their homework without the help of the universities.
Right.
And then now we are facing the problem that the universities want to jump to the projects, and the companies, they say, okay, where were you 10 years back? I needed you then. I don't need you now. And this is a huge problem.
And how do we unpack the solutions, or what are the things that is metrics, the fundamental metrics? If you want to go to the root causes and get back on track.
For me, one thing that even in Sweden we are losing is the collaboration between the companies and the university. And this is something that is dangerous, because the Swedish industrial system was built on a close cooperation between the academia and the industry. And now the industry and many companies that are top, I cannot mention, but there are many companies that are top, they don't find in the universities the proper place to grow up certain projects. And they create their own R&D departments. This is really bad. Because we need cooperation with the companies. We need laboratories funded by the companies where students and researchers, they can grow up and they can create the next generation that is going to go to the companies. And we need, let me be honest, same as in the US, master thesis and PhD thesis, more practical, less theoretical, and with a more impact on the industry. For many years in Europe, when one thesis was having huge impact on the industry, many people said, okay, this is not a PhD thesis because it has impact on the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
It was a bad thing, right?
It was a bad thing.
Oh my God.
This is because if you want to be a pure academician, you should do pure things.
Yeah.
And now we have to be aware that in US, they have done it very well. They have applied thesis. An applied thesis is not a negative word. It's something done between the university in close cooperation with the industry. And here in Sweden, when I came, let me say that there was one thing that in Spain didn't exist. The industrial PhD. Industrial PhD was that person from a company, SAP, ABB, SKF, that the company paid that person to go to the university 50% of the time and do the PhD and then go back to the company. Because the PhD degree and the knowledge in the university was valuable for the company.
It was that win-win.
Yes, but this 10 years ago, this is going down, the number of industrial PhDs that you can find in the Swedish universities. And this means that the industries don't believe as they did in the universities. Because that figure, the industrial PhD, was rather unique. It exists also in Germany, but I never saw that in Spain. Now I see that this is missing, and this is because the diversion between companies and universities is there, especially on AI.
In these tech areas, big AI, big data, IoT, that is sort of taking another path.
Yeah, actually, this is the problem is that the companies, believe me, that is, and I'm really sad to agree with you, but the companies many times they have knocked the door of the universities. They have seen that the state of the art is okay. You are far behind. Yeah. Then I cannot collaborate with you. Yeah. And the universities still persist on reinventing the wheel. This is something that is already in the market. Okay, let's do a PhD thesis to develop. It's already in the market.
We're chasing the metric to get published. We beat the metric.
Yes, sir. The problem is if you don't change the metrics, you don't change the system.
Yeah, it's a bit sad. Let's not try to end on this kind of sad topic. Perhaps you can mention a bit about your future work. What's next in your life? A bit about what's going to happen in Luleå or in Tecnalia. What's going on?
This is a very difficult question. We have been talking about social network of machines. For me, my current challenge now is working with digital twins. That is, maybe the companies demand more. Many companies, they want digital twins of their products or of their processes, and and the digital twins is like their political opinion. Everybody has a different one. Then you need when the company comes and say, I want a digital twin. What kind of digital twin?
What is a digital twin to you?
What do you understand by digital twin?
Exactly.
Because sometimes a BIM model, a 3D representation, for some people is a digital twin. For some, then I think still we have to work in the representation of these digital twins, and we will move. For me, still I see as technology, digital twins, and social network of machines. I see clear there, and as the AI, for me, the servitization is going to be maybe one of the biggest.
What is this AI?
Servitization, for me, in the industrial settings, when you sell, for example, a robot, you sell a robot now, but you don't sell the robot anymore. You are selling welding hours to the company.
Welding hours, serialization, yes.
And then the company, what is the difference? The company, they don't want to maintain, they don't want to do anything with the robot. It's like when you have a phone or a car or a computer on leasing, you want just the service. Then what is the point? That the manufacturer, through AI, is going to provide a service to maximize the performance and minimize the maintenance cost, etc.
Yeah.
And then
this is what our friend Matthias is speaking about all the time. He's speaking. This is a friend. He's a professor in circular economy or sustainability, and he's speaking all the time about we should not be selling a product or not even a service. We should be selling a function.
Yeah.
So speaking about cars, for example, you shouldn't sell a car. You shouldn't even sell a car pool or service. What you should sell is, I want to go from point A to B. And the company that can sell that function the best.
Yeah. There a very famous Swedish company like SKF, they manufacture the bearings.
Yeah.
And they don't sell bearings now. They say that they sell reliable rotation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is
reliable rotation.
That sounds a bit. You were thinking about something else, I think, Goran. But yeah.
No, I was not. I thought it was just funny.
This is actually everybody wants to sell just the function, and this is because we are not willing to pay any more for the product itself. We want the function, and the function needs a good service, and the service
but it also
is brought
brought a lot of incentives for the manufacturers to actually think about maintenance, right, and to think about the life cycle of the products in a way that they don't have to if you sell and you have to own a mobile phone or whatnot.
But but you have to change the paradigm, because remember that a few years ago you were selling the product and you were selling the maintenance and the spare parts. Then you were doing business twice.
Yes, exactly. And you earn more money then.
And many salesmen of the companies, they were saying the worst for the customer, the best for me. Because the more spare parts the guy needs, better for me. Yeah. No, now it's different. Now the maintenance is in the manufacturer's side. Yeah. Then it's totally different. And I think it's there where AI, for example, there's one company, Swedish, that is excellent, Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is having, around 20,000 machines all over the world. And they have all the machines monitored from Lund. And they are doing analytics of these machines and sending the spare parts and the service engineers just if needed. Then I think they have done a fantastic work, and of course, many things to be done, but to centralize the decision support system in Lund and sell just the service. Right. And this is the business model is entirely different. I think Sweden is doing really well. There are some companies like Tetra Pak, ABB, SKF, Atlas Copco. They are doing fantastic things in terms of servitization.
I think you paint up a rather beautiful picture, at least for Sweden, then, right? That if we move in that direction, selling the service or the function and moving to a more sustainable future where maintenance is actually included as a part of the function, and using, of course, more intelligent maintenance, then we could have a beautiful future in the coming ahead.
And right? For sure, a more sustainable view.
Definitely, what you are defining, AI should be the real engine of the circular economy and sustainability. Right. And in this way, if we are not the owners of the stuff anymore, we are just the users, and we don't have to scrap the goods. Then we will have the chance to change the tendency that we are having now, right? Then I think we are doing well so far. I think we are in the right direction. But for me, one important thing is that the AI is very powerful and will trigger this sustainability, but also in small and medium companies and also in the developing countries. If we keep this in the island of the Western world, definitely,
and the big companies,
definitely the impact will be very, very small.
Yeah, that's a good summary. That's a goal. That's a good goal.
Let's work for that together. Right?
Let's do that.
Diego, Do you have anyone that you would recommend to come on this show? Anyone that you would like to listen to that we interrogate a bit, like yourself?
This is a really difficult question, but I would like to have someone also critical with the evolution of the Industry 4.0. I think we have been
too soft.
Yes,
too soft happy.
We have accepted the
without
the
critical
fact of the 4.0 concept, and even if we move the 4.0 concept, the 5G concept, we have to see the difference between evolution and
disruption
and revolution, transformation and disruption. Then definitely I would like to have here someone from some SME to see, how do you foresee the AI in the coming 5-10 years? Because
a CEO of a small medium enterprise manufacturing company,
yes,
and reflect on his understanding of AI and how he hears all the buzzwords floating around, but how does it work in reality?
Yeah, but just to see, it's one SME that can be 100, 200 employees. This is with maybe 2-3 persons in the ICT department, and the authorities, the government is supporting you in this. From the universities, you get support. Can you access to the proprietary systems? What is the degree of the implantation of the Industry 4.0? And I think if we take the scorecard of the Industry 4.0 in some SMEs, that some of them are famous, we could get a very, very funny surprise.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. I like that because it ties well into our idea of demystifying AI and discussing AI, is that we need to look at it from many different glasses and angles, from the professors, from the data scientists, from the CEO, from the politicians. And you're highlighting now, how is AI impacting small, medium enterprise, especially in manufacturing? And we can talk about how is your experience of Industry 4.0 as a good example?
Yeah, I think would be nice to see, what is the perception of the SMEs?
Awesome.
Good idea. Very good idea.
Thank you very much, Diego Galar.
Thank you.
It's been a true pleasure to have you here and discuss with such an experienced and knowledgeable person. It's been a true pleasure.
Has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diego.
Thank you. Have an awesome evening. And hope you continue for the after work as well.
Sure.
The singularity will come up next. Sorry, guys. You're going to miss it.
Sustainability.
Circular. We didn't talk about circular economy enough.
It's like 10 different topics.
10 topics that we will have fun with.
And the topic you didn't want to talk about. We have to talk about that.
That's exactly.
We'll do that off camera. That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.